A friend helped me, but another guy told me I was useless for bothering someone, so now I do not know. Thank you all for replying, as it is nice to hear some perspectives. I was kind of amused when I got to the tire store with the spare on. The worker asked, "Who changed that for you?" It felt like I had useless tattooed on my forehead. Or maybe not many women change tires. I do not know. Story 1. Everyone who operates a vehicle should know basic maintenance, including how to change a tire, in case they need to use this knowledge. However, if asked, I will gladly assist someone in changing a tire, regardless of gender. Story 2. Of course, they should be able to. Anybody who owns a car should know how to perform basic emergency maintenance on it. There is absolutely no reason for something like changing a tire to be gender-coded these days. Story 3. Yes, women should be able to do basic adult tasks on their own. It is actually surprising how much society treats women like children in certain situations. I had a minor car accident with a 30-year-old woman, and she refused to exchange information with me. I had to wait for her to video call her father and handle the situation through him. Story 4. Woman here. In my opinion, and I was taught, if you own a car, you should be able to do basic maintenance on it. Check the oil or other fluids and change a tire. You should also know how to jumpstart a car. This is not gender-related. I agree with a comment below. It is a life skill. The more life skills you have, the better off you are. Also, a mini rant. I hate that cars no longer come with an actual spare tire. Forget that. It's the first thing I get, plus an emergency roadside kit. Story 5. Should she know how to do it to avoid dangerous situations? Yes. Should she be comfortable relying on me to do it if I am around? Yes. Story 6. Everyone who operates a motor vehicle should be able to perform basic maintenance, including changing a tire. It is not difficult. Anyone can learn. If you cannot do it, you are accepting being incompetent at a basic skill, which is not ideal. The main concern when changing a tire is getting the torque correct. However, you can slightly over-tighten it and then take the vehicle to a professional service center to have it checked. Story 7. For their own safety and convenience, yes. That said, my wife and daughter will never change a flat tire themselves while I am still able. Story 8. Ideally, all wheeled vehicle owners should know how to make emergency repairs and maintain the functionality of the vehicle they are in charge of driving. Just like homeowners should be able to maintain their homes and keep them clean. However, that is unlikely to happen. As long as you are able to find people who can assist you, I do not see a problem with it. Story 9. Anyone who owns a car should be able to do basic maintenance on it. However, I would not mind helping out if needed, for example, if they are missing the tools or something, regardless of whether they are a man or a woman. Story 10. Honestly, yes. You are not hopeless for not being able to, and that person was unpleasant. However, if you own and drive a car, you should be able to change a tire in an emergency and check and top up things like oil and water yourself. Having a service is fine and asking for help is fine, but you should learn how to do it yourself just in case. One day you might get caught somewhere alone with no phone service, and then you would be stuck if you cannot. Story 11. Yes, because you never know. What if you are in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night and have no phone service? But it applies to most things really. Knowing how to do things is never a bad thing. Story 12. Everyone should be able to change their tire on their own. That being said, I always jump at the chance to feel manly and heroic while helping people at the same time. It is a win-win. Story 13. If you own and drive a car, you should be able to change a tire unless you physically cannot. Being a woman does not mean you cannot. It might be more of a workout for you than for me, but the process is easy. Unless you drive a large four-wheel drive, the wheels only weigh about 10 to 15 kilograms and need to be lifted only slightly. Story 14. I think being able to change a tire should be a requirement for getting a driver's license. I have no problem if you ask for help. I understand that it is a skill that is not practiced very often. Story 15. Yes, everyone should. It is your car, you take care of it. It is all a learning situation. The question is, are you willing to learn? Story 16. What is wrong with some of these men? Some tire shops over-torque the lug nuts. I know, I am a 220-pound man and stood on a breaker bar, trying and failing to loosen lug nuts to replace a flat tire. Sometimes it is less about having the skill and more about others making it impossible for you. That applies to both men and women. Story 17. Yes, so she does not have to ask a stranger. If I am present, I will do that. I got her an electric impact wrench with the right torque setting for her car, so it is easy. Additionally, I got her an electric jack. Story 18. Everyone should. I have met many grown men who, for one reason or another, never figured it out. So do not feel bad. Story 19. In my opinion, there are practical skills that people should know. Everyone should have basic cooking skills and basic mending skills. If you wear clothes or eat food, it is important to know these skills. If you own a car, you should know simple maintenance and how to change a tire. Story 20. To answer your question, yes, anyone driving should be able to change a flat tire without help. That does not mean I would judge or refuse to help anyone who asks. I have changed my wife's tire when she got a flat on the way to work before. I believe it is one of those things anyone operating a car should be able to do, like changing oil or filling gas. Story 21. Why does gender matter? You should be able to change the tire because you are old enough to have a car, and it is your responsibility to take care of it. This includes changing the tire. Story 22. You are not useless for asking for or accepting help, but for your own safety, you should know how to do it on your own if you have to. Story 23. It is pretty simple, but if you do not know how, whether you are a man or a woman, I am not going to shame you. I am just going to help you change it because that is what I would want someone to do for me. Story 24. If you can drive a car, you should know how to change a tire. Whether or not you can often comes down to physical strength. Lug nuts can have a torque specification of over 100 foot-pounds. As anyone who has worked on cars can attest, a nut or bolt torque to specification can require far more torque than specified to remove. I weigh about 190 pounds and have had lug nuts that I know were put on to specification because I put them on with a torque wrench that required a 3-foot cheater bar to remove. That's about 570 foot-pounds of torque. If you weigh 100 pounds, which is possible for adult women, and only have what's in the tire change kit that came with your car, there is no way you can remove that tire. If you have a driver's license, you should know how to change a tire, but that does not always mean you can change a tire. Story 25. That other person was unpleasant. Is it a good skill to have? Yes. Is there anything wrong with getting help with it? Absolutely not. Story 26. Should they be able to? Everyone should be able to know how to do it and have the basic equipment, yes, but if you are in a bad situation and need to call someone for help, then call someone for help. There is no shame in it. My wife was on the side of the freeway in our van with our kids and called me when her tire blew. I left work and was there as soon as possible. It was a very busy and dangerous freeway. The lug nuts were rusted badly, and I had to stand on the wrench just to pop off some of those rusted nuts. My wife did not know any of this, and I would not have wanted her to be out there with cars passing by, trying to figure this out on her own. Could she have managed it? I do not know. She might not have been able to get the lug nuts off. Being part of a family or a group of loved ones is important for support. Help each other out. Have each other's backs. I think that is very important. More important than feeling like you have to do it all yourself or that there is some shame in asking others for help. Story 27. Anyone owning a car should know how to do basic maintenance. I would help, since knowing how to do things does not mean one should be left to fend for themselves. I would stop to ask anyone if I could help. Story 28. Should they? Yes. I believe knowing how to change a tire is essential knowledge for any responsible driver, man or woman. Story 29. You should be able to because it is a useful skill, and there is not always someone there to ask for help. As for being useless for bothering someone, pay no attention. There is nothing wrong with asking for help. Story 30. I think everyone should know how. Getting help makes it easier for everyone, even if you know how. Story 31. My car does not even have a spare tire. I just call roadside assistance if I get a flat tire. That said, I do have an air compressor, so I really just top off the tire pressure as needed. Story 32. Yes, waiting for someone else is just unwise. To be fair, most men do not even know the basics of their own cars, so there is that. Story 33. I taught my wife and children to drive. Lesson 1 was changing a tire, checking fluids, and checking tire pressure and wear. Having said that, I will never discourage or disparage someone who asks for help doing a physical task. People get hurt if they do things they are not strong or skilled enough to do. Story 34. Yes, but I am always happy to change them when I am available to do so. I have done it for complete strangers several times. One was a young woman driving by herself through a remote section of a national forest, far away from any cell phone service. There was next to no traffic to speak of, so if I had not stopped, she very well might have spent the night out there. For that exact sort of scenario, I want all the women in my life to have the ability to do it on their own, even though I am more than happy to help, as I said. Story 35. It's a skill everyone should have. It doesn't matter the gender. That said, I know a few men who have no idea how. Story 36. I feel that if you own or regularly drive a vehicle, you should know how to change a tire regardless of gender. You cannot guarantee that anyone you know to ask is close enough to help when stranded on the side of the road, that any passerby will stop to help, or that roadside assistance is nearby. It is something that is not difficult, unless your mechanic over-tightened the lug nuts, and even the two kind men who stop to help cannot loosen them. Changing a tire is a common enough occurrence that most people will need the knowledge at least once in their lives, often at a really inconvenient time. Story 37. Should you know how to do it yourself? Yes, regardless of your gender identity. Should you be able to ask for help even if you know how? Yes, especially if someone else is already with you and can lend a hand. Story 38. Every driver should know how to change a tire. It is an essential part of driving. Any friend should be willing to help out when things go wrong because it is part of friendship. There can be good reasons to change a tire for someone. For example, they may be wearing a nice outfit and do not want to get dirty. In my opinion, the gender of the people is irrelevant. Help your friends when it is helpful. Story 39. My wife knows how, but I will always do it if I am available. My daughter will learn how and will need to show that she can do it for emergencies, but I will do it if I am available. Story 40. If you own or operate a vehicle, you should know how to change a tire. If nothing else, that is the one thing you should know. I feel like it should be part of the physical test for obtaining a driver's license. Story 41. I don't care if it is a woman or a man. If they are on the side of the road with a flat tire, I will stop and offer my help. Story 42. If you drive a car, you need to know how to perform basic maintenance on it, the prices for some of the main components, and basic knowledge of how to diagnose possible causes when it breaks down before taking it to a repair shop. Trust me, the last 2 points will save you a lot of money and protect you from getting scammed. Story 43. For your own safety and independence, everyone who drives needs to know how to change a tire. That being said, getting help is always advisable and sometimes safer. Do not listen to that person. Story 44. You should know how to do it. Knowledge is power. That being said, if I saw a woman changing her tire, I would offer to help or do it for her. It is the gentlemanly thing to do. Story 45. Absolutely, if you drive a car, you should be able to change a tire and provide basic maintenance of your car, especially internal combustion engine vehicles. However, I have known a man who could not change a car tire. He was academically very bright too. He just was not a conventional hands-on person. My colleague and I were surprised when he said he could not change a tire. When we asked what he would do if he needed to change a tire in an emergency, he said he would call breakdown recovery. Story 46. My father taught my sisters how to change a tire, mow the lawn, and clean the gutters, just like he taught my brother and me how to cook, clean, and do laundry. None of my children will ever be dependent on another person. Story 47. Anyone who owns a car or drives regularly should know how to change a tire. If you are able-bodied, you should be able to change your own tires without help. That said, it is an annoying, dirty, and physically demanding job, especially if you have to do everything by hand without power tools. You should learn how to do it on your own, but that does not mean you can never ask for help. I can use a screw jack and tire lever to swap out my tires alone, but it is much easier when I bring my car to my father's, where I can use his impact wrench and hydraulic jack and he helps me. Do not worry about what others say. Their problems are their problems. Friends like to help each other. People do car maintenance together all the time. Why can't you do car maintenance with a friend? Story 48. Well, women want equality, right? So yes, absolutely. I would laugh at any man who cannot change a tire, so I would laugh at any woman who cannot either. Story 49. I expect my daughters to learn to change their own tires. I do not expect them to avoid doing so just because there is a man around. Story 50. If they want to do road trips by themselves, it could save their life. But calling the American Automobile Association and having an active membership is also a solid move, as plenty of people get hit by cars while changing their tire on the side of the road. Story 51. It is a good skill to learn, but it is not mandatory for life. American Automobile Association is a service for a reason, or a friend who is not unkind would help without issue. Story 52. If you drive a car, you should know how to change a tire because there could be a time when no one is around to help. At the same time, I have never refused to help someone change a tire, and I certainly did not give them a hard time about it. Story 53. I did not learn how to change a tire until I had to search for it when my car had its third flat tire in a year, and the American Automobile Association said it would take 4 hours. Therefore, I think to get a permit, they should require you to jack up your car once. Story 54. Every able-bodied person should know how to perform this in an emergency, but there is no shame in asking someone or calling a towing company. As I get older, I recognize and maintain important skills, but I am increasingly likely to outsource them whenever possible. Story 55. At the very least, they should know how so they can direct someone who does not but can. Ask for physical help if needed. Story 56. Everyone should be able to handle situations like that. Many modern cars do not come with spare tires, and that should be illegal in my opinion. They give you a card or some sealant and tell you it will be okay, when really you should have a jack and a spare tire to make it home or to the tire shop. Story 57. Should is a loaded word. Is it a good idea to have that skill? Yes. Is it something you should feel bad about not having? No. Story 58. I would say this is an important skill for anyone with a driver's license regardless of gender. I taught my wife when we first started dating. I know plenty of men who also cannot change a tire. Having someone help if it is your first time is completely okay. I recommend watching some online videos on the subject, reading the manual that comes with your car, and then practicing in your driveway in a low-stakes environment instead of the first time being on the side of the highway in a stressful situation. Story 59. It is okay not to know, even though it is useful for everyone to learn. We are all human. What is wrong is actively refusing to learn because you expect someone else to do it. We are all adults. Story 60. What is this question? Everyone should know how to change a tire. If someone needs help and I am walking by, I would give it. That being said, I would not help them if they were just being lazy. Story 61. Everyone who owns a car or driver's license should be able to change washer fluid, check the oil level, clear snow from the car, and change tires. Men, women, or anyone else. Everyone. Story 62. Everyone should have the ability to survive using their skills, and everyone should have the opportunity to learn those skills to survive. This transcends gender, sexuality, and race. Good luck out there when the zombie apocalypse happens. I am going to deliberately puncture all tires in a 100-kilometer zone around you just to be unpleasant. I will do all 4 tires to be even more unpleasant. Story 63. Yes, I think anyone who drives should know the basics about their car, such as changing a tire, oil, and wipers. It also helps to have a friend or family member who can assist you if needed. Story 64. Everyone driving a car should know how to change a tire. I had a man ask me once if I had some tools so he could change his tire. After bringing out the tools, he just stared at them. I ended up doing most of the work for him. Story 65. Yes. Everyone should be able to change a flat tire without asking for help. If you have to ask for help, then you need to work on that. If you get stuck in the middle of nowhere with a flat tire, you could be waiting for hours for assistance. Assuming driving on that flat tire is not an option. Story 66. Everyone should be able to do anything. Anyone should be able to offer help when they see someone struggling. Story 67. The reverse of your question is, why should women not be able to change flat tires? I cannot think of a reason. I also cannot think of why a question about women's capabilities should be asked of men. Why not ask women? Story 68. It is not hard. If you want to be a strong, independent woman, you should do it by yourself. Also, what if you are stuck without help? Story 69. Everyone should be able to change a flat tire without asking for help. In my opinion, it is as important as being able to put gas in your car. When you are driving, a flat tire is something that will likely happen eventually, so you need to know how to handle it. Story 70. You should learn how to change a flat tire if being able to change a flat tire is important to you. How comfortable are you with potentially being stranded in a random place at a random time and not being able to do anything about it until you get help from someone? You should learn these kinds of skills if you want to, not because someone told you to. The same applies to how to perform cardiopulmonary resuscitation, how to start a fire. There are many basic, potentially life-saving skills you can learn if you want to. You do not need someone to tell you whether these things are worth learning. Story 71. If you do not want to be reliant on other people, yes. What happens if you get a flat tire in the middle of nowhere? You will just be stuck there until someone can get to you, if they can in the first place. Story 72. Everyone should be taught how to change a flat tire. If you were never taught, then regardless of gender, I have no expectations of you. The first time I had to change a flat tire, I called a mechanic friend because I couldn't figure out where I was supposed to put the jack. I understood what to do conceptually but never had any practical experience. Story 73. I have never met a woman who could change a tire. I am sure they exist and they are not all basically burly men. I tried to teach my wife. She did not care at all. She even drove on a flat tire a few months ago. What? There is enough air? See how the entire tire is not completely collapsed. Duh. Story 74. I taught all three of my daughters to change tires, change oil, change wiper blades, and perform basic maintenance. What is the matter with you for asking this question? Story 75. She should, in the sense that life is hard and she might find herself alone and in such a predicament. The sad part is how we created a world where a woman might not have someone to rely on when in need. Story 76. It is a good skill to have regardless of gender. Many men cannot do it. I can, but I would never expect my wife to do it herself. I have also called my father for help because he has better tools. Changing a tire on the side of the road in an emergency with a scissor jack and tire iron is one thing, but if I need to change a tire in my driveway, I call the person with a hydraulic jack and impact wrench. Depending on who tightened your lug nuts, some women might struggle with the tire iron. Not everyone keeps a bar handy for leverage either. Story 77. You should be able to, just as a survival and safety measure. Any able-bodied adult has the necessary ability. That does not mean it is wrong to ask for help, though. I would ask for help myself because doing it alone is very miserable. Story 78. I mean, it would be better if everyone, regardless of gender, were able to help themselves first and foremost. If you cannot, though, and someone agrees to help you, there is nothing wrong with that. Story 79. In a perfect world, everyone has every skill set, so they can do everything themselves if needed. In a near-perfect world, every group of friends has every skill set distributed among their members so they can help each other with various things without calling professionals. Story 80. Everyone should be able to change their tire and perform basic car maintenance, just like everyone should be able to do laundry, wash dishes, and prepare a meal. Story 81. Girl, yeah, absolutely you should know how and be able to. What happens if you're stuck in a remote area with no cell reception? My sister can do it. So can my wife. You can bet my daughter, despite poor muscle tone, is going to know how and be guided through it. Now, if a kind person stops to help, should you turn them down? I am thankful for the man who stopped and changed my wife's flat tire several years ago on an isolated stretch of road. She had our children with her. They were both young. His stopping and helping helped reduce that stress. I was 2 hours away. The first time I got a flat tire, I was 23, headed to work. I couldn't find the wrench to lower the tire on my truck. I had to call my father to come rescue me. I did the work, but he helped me find what I couldn't and then talked me through the rest. Story 82. I am a woman and know how to do it and have the equipment, but last time I tried, the lug nuts would not budge. Even standing on the wrench did not work. Story 83. I don't mind helping a woman change a flat tire in the same way I don't mind helping to open a jar. It's one of those silly stereotypical manly things that makes me feel manly, even though I'll happily admit it's silly. Having said that, for her own safety, a woman should know how to do it herself in case she ever finds herself in an emergency situation where help isn't close at hand. Story 84. For their safety, they should be able to do so. There is no allowance necessary. They are free to learn and free to do so. Story 85. It is a skill to learn, as it can be used independently without waiting for assistance. It is not a problem if you do not know it. If someone is ready to help, let them. Be grateful for their time and efforts. Story 86. Everyone should know how to change a tire, but I would never shame someone who does not. I have helped multiple women friends change their tires, and it is not a big deal. Story 87. Yes. Yes, they should be able to. That said, anyone who says you are useless for asking someone for help is wrong. You have to learn at some point. Nobody was born knowing the proper way to change a tire without being taught. Story 88. Everyone should know how to do basic things on their car for their own safety and self-reliance. Story 89. I mean, you go your whole life. Takes 20 minutes to learn how to change a flat tire. The real question is, why wouldn't you? Story 90. Yes, but if it is obvious they need help, I do not mind helping. Everyone should be as self-sustaining as possible for their own good. But if you need help at times, you need help. It is as simple as that. Story 91. Calling you useless was harsh, but everyone should know how to do that. It would take about 12 minutes to learn. Story 92. I bought my girlfriend the cheapest car I could find so she could get to work. It had a problem where the ball link connecting the gear stick to the transmission would pop off. It took 2 seconds to fix with one hand and did not require touching anything hot or greasy, but she refused to let me teach her how to fix it. One day, it happened on the highway during rush hour, and her phone was dead. She pulled off the highway into a random business parking lot and called me. She was not very specific with the location. It took me and her father an hour to get there because of the vague location she gave us and the bumper-to-bumper traffic. We were forced to drive past, get back on the highway, and drive another hour to return to her. She ended up using a stranger's phone to call us and provide a more accurate location. If you are going to drive, you should definitely be willing to learn simple things like changing a tire. Story 93. I really do not care. But when you get home after I changed it, be sure to give me a crown, pet my belly, and tell me how much of a manly rescue guy I was. Story 94. Yes, it is not about women or men anymore. In this day and age, when most people drive some sort of vehicle, it is a necessary emergency skill, similar to knowing the Heimlich maneuver. Story 95. Every woman and new driver should know the basics for their car, including how to check the oil, change a flat tire, set up flares, and add windshield fluid at a minimum. It is very easy. The jack is the hardest part, but you can buy ones that make it very simple. Please learn how if you do not know, because it is always nice to find a helpful person, but you will be better served knowing how just in case there is no one around next time. Story 96. Maybe. It requires a fair amount of strength to change a tire. Some women simply do not have it. I taught my daughter to change a tire before she got her license, and a year or so later she had to change one. Story 97. Women should do what they are capable of as individuals. My ex-wife could not change a tire. Some men can, some men cannot. I can. My best friend cannot. My first phone call will be to the American Automobile Association because if the wait time is less than about 15 minutes, I will call them since it is included with some service my insurance has. It is difficult with the tools provided with the vehicle. But if the wait time is around 30 minutes, I will just do it myself. Story 98. If you have your driver's license, you should know how to properly change a spare tire. It can mean life or death depending on the situation you are in. Story 99. Yes, if only because you might not have a friend or someone else there to help. I mean, accept help, but do not make it the only way it would happen. Story 100. Anyone who drives should be able to change a tire. From a practical safety perspective, no one should find themselves stranded. Story 101. Yes, for multiple reasons. If I am available, I have no problem doing it, but otherwise, you should really know how to do it. You should know the basics of maintaining your car, and for your safety, you should be able to change a tire so that you are not stranded and forced to rely on a stranger. Story 102. Yes, they should be able to change a tire on their own. Anyone who owns a car should be able to perform basic car maintenance, like changing a tire, keeping the air pressure checked, checking fluid levels, pumping gas, and knowing when the oil needs to be changed. That being said, it does not mean that they have to change their tire by themselves if they have someone who can help. Story 103. It is a basic skill like cooking or changing a light bulb. You need to know how to change a flat tire. You can watch a video online, and you will be much more self-sufficient. Story 104. You are not useless for bothering someone, but you should know how to change a flat tire. I have gotten myself out of a couple of difficult situations with that knowledge. It is extremely simple. I did it for the first time ever after reading about it once as a teenager. I highly recommend trying it out for yourself. Story 105. I had to teach a 28-year-old man how to change a tire. Not a big deal, but we work in the Australian outback. That is definitely something someone out here should know. In town, it is not such a big problem, but everyone should learn just to save the expense of getting someone out if nothing else. Story 106. Is there anything an individual can do that being a woman prevents them from knowing how to do? Especially something potentially life-saving like changing a tire? Story 107. It is not hard and requires only a basic understanding of the process to accomplish. Can you stop safely? I hope every driver knows how to pull over. Jack up your car. Take the jack, place it properly, and raise the car. Loosen and remove 4 to 5 bolts. Take off the tire, put on the spare tire, then replace and tighten the bolts. Done. In an era of gender equality, what part of this is too complex for a woman to know? I could understand if it were a strength issue involving a stripped bolt or something similar, but even then, jacking up a car is not a strength issue. Lifting or rolling a tire into position is not very difficult. Therefore, I believe it is a degree of learned helplessness that can be easily remedied with a minute or two of education. Story 108. They should be able to change a flat tire in a remote area if needed. However, if a man is present, they should not have to if they do not want to. It can require significant force, so unless she exercises regularly, she may find it challenging. I have struggled before when a shop tightened the nuts too much, so I imagine it would have been impossible with even less physical strength. Story 109. Yes. If you are going to own a vehicle, you should understand basic maintenance and be prepared for common eventualities such as flat tires. You should know how to change tires, batteries, wiper blades, top-off fluids, and recognize common engine or system failure indicators on the dashboard. Story 110. Everybody should know how, but I see nothing wrong with asking for help when one could use assistance, especially if it is a friend and not just bothering a total stranger. I used to make the kids help me rotate the tires so they would all know how to put on the spare if they had to. Once, one of my daughters was on a double date, and they got a flat tire. She was the only one who knew what to do, but the guys insisted on doing the actual work so they would not feel useless. Story 111. Yes. Purely so you can fix the problem yourself in case you are in a remote area without help nearby. Practice it at home first so you know the correct technique, as it can be a dangerous task if done incorrectly. Story 112. Anybody driving a vehicle should know basic automotive care and maintenance. Many European countries require this knowledge for obtaining a driving license. Story 113. I am not offended if someone asks for help. However, I believe there are many basic skills everyone should know. Changing a tire is one of those skills. Story 114. People should be able to be independent according to their needs. My wife has me to do things for her, and I am glad to. I know she is capable of doing them on her own if I cease to exist, but for now, she has me to gladly help her. Story 115. My daughter passed her driving test a few months ago. She got a flat tire about a month later. I used it as an opportunity to teach her how to change the wheel. I helped a little bit with one over-tightened nut and showed her how to use the wrench. Anyway, the reason is simple. I will not always be there, and it is an easy job once you have done it once. Give a woman a fish and you feed her for a day. Teach a woman to fish and you feed her for a lifetime. Story 116. Here is what I have to say. When my partner and I started dating, I taught her what to do and told her I would always rather come do it for her or have someone else do it. But if for some reason there were no other options, I wanted her to know what to do. Story 117. Absolutely yes. If you own a vehicle, you should at the very least know how to change tires and check and fill fluids. Story 118. Yes, because it is a useful life skill for people of any gender despite being associated with masculinity. At the same time, men should know how to sew a ripped seam without asking women for help. Story 119. Yes, self-sufficiency with basic skills is important. It is one thing to need a mechanic, but changing a flat tire is just part of auto ownership. Having said that, you are not useless because you asked for help. However, you do need to improve your skills because that friend will not always be near you when you need a tire changed. Story 120. Yes. This is a situation that can happen when you do not have help. Before I gave the keys to my daughter for her first car, she changed a tire on her own in the driveway. Story 121. If my 17-year-old daughter can change the tire on her car, you can too. I say this not to disparage you but to show that it is possible for a woman to learn to do it. It is not about being a bother or being useless. It is about willingness to learn. Are you willing to learn how? It really is not too hard to do. The tire itself is the biggest challenge because it is quite heavy. But there are tips online that can help you figure out the best way to lift it into place, similar to easier ways to pick up a motorcycle if you drop it. You also do not need to have a flat tire to learn. Just pull the jack out of the trunk in your driveway and watch some videos on how to do it. Maybe have someone help walk you through it a few times if you do not feel confident. I would happily help someone if they showed a willingness to learn. Story 122. Responsible drivers should be able to perform basic maintenance tasks, including installing snow chains or cables, checking and topping off air and fluids, and changing tires. Story 123. I am a 35-year-old female. I was required to know how to change a tire and drive a manual transmission if I wanted to drive. I think it is shocking how women are just okay with not being able to help themselves. I know men who cannot even change a tire. It is crazy. Story 124. Is it an essential skill? Sure. But I do not care if they can or not. There have been plenty of lugs I have had to jump on the wrench to break them loose, and I am 6 feet 4 inches tall and over 200 pounds. So it can be an issue for someone who weighs much less than that. Story 125. If you drive that car and you are physically able to do it, yes, definitely. Regardless of gender, it is part of the responsibility of driving. Story 126. Yes, that does not mean I will not assist though. I do not mind coming to help, but you had better at least have anything you can get ready safely. Story 127. Yes, I, a 55-year-old female, was taught by my ex-boyfriend how to change a tire. All women should have this knowledge and be able to jumpstart a car as well. Story 128. Mixed experience on this. I have driven past women in remote areas in the United Kingdom and offered help, only to be turned away, even though I am driving a van with full company branding. I have returned an hour later to find them still struggling and have left them to it. Other times, I have been hailed as their savior and a gentleman for offering assistance. I never have an ulterior motive. I do not care if you are male or female. If I see someone in trouble and I can help, I will. Some women and men do not possess the physical strength to loosen the nuts on a wheel or do not even know their car has a jack and spare tire. Others do, and that is wonderful. It is nice to be kind. Sadly, some women think you intend to harm them and call you a creep, telling you to go away. Again, mixed experience. Story 129. Every flat tire I have ever dealt with, another man helped me. Why would I judge anyone who needs help? Story 130. I would make sure any daughters or female family members knew how to change a tire if they had to, just in case no one was available to help. I want my loved ones to be able to depend on me, but also be self-sufficient if I cannot be there for them. Story 131. It's a good skill to have. It doesn't really matter. If I had a wife and she was stuck in the middle of nowhere, it's good to know. Story 132. I think everyone, regardless of gender, should at least know how to change a flat tire. There is nothing wrong with asking for help in a difficult situation, but you owe it to yourself not to be completely helpless. Story 133. Willful helplessness is infuriating. I live on a tourist river. Several years ago, I was standing hip-high in slow water. A man floated by me within 3 feet, in a panic. He was clinging to the underside of his tube and breathing heavily. He gasped at me where to get out to safety. I told him to put his feet down. He did, stood up, and took a moment to collect himself. Why anyone drives a vehicle regularly and does not know how to change a tire is simply stupid. Darwin Award level dumb. My father taught me how to change a tire before he taught me how to drive a stick shift. Story 134. I think all women should be able to do basic car maintenance for their own benefit. The more they know about car maintenance, the less likely they are to be ripped off by dishonest repair shops. Story 135. I know how to change a tire, but realistically, men typically are stronger when it comes to loosening the lug nuts. I'm not saying women can't do it. Mine were so tight I was jumping on it with my full weight, and it still wouldn't loosen. The mail carrier stopped by to help and did it in a few stomps. Story 136. I think everyone who drives should know how to change flat tires. Not everyone can generate the force necessary to remove the lug nuts, especially if someone at the tire shop over-tightened them. Story 137. Why is this a man or woman thing? Every adult should know how to change a tire. Your parents failed you. Edit. I didn't mean to sound rude. My parents also failed me. They did not teach me to change a tire. However, with the internet in your pocket 24 hours a day, every adult has the capability to learn how to change a tire. You are just lazy. Story 138. Yes, it is not hard, and I remember teaching student drivers how to do it if the opportunity presents itself, regardless of gender. Story 139. Trust me, not all men know about it. It is an exceptional requirement, and I do not think it should be associated with gender or capabilities. Anyone can do it with practice. Story 140. I know how to change a tire, but often I am too weak to loosen the nuts that have been tightened by the tire dealership. There have even been times when I was the only person who knew how to change a tire while driving around a car full of men. Story 141. I mean, it is a useful skill regardless of one's gender. I am happy to help if my assistance is needed. Story 142. There is nothing inherently wrong with asking for help. There are many things that I, as a man, am supposed to know according to society, but I do not. That does not make me useless, or anyone else for that matter. Story 143. Yes, but there is nothing wrong with accepting a man's help if you are comfortable with it. It makes us feel useful, so it is a win-win. Story 144. It is a skill everyone who drives should know. Even if it is difficult or takes a long time, everyone should learn it just in case. The person calling you useless should find something better to do. I would bet that there are skills he is missing that you know. Story 145. Yes, everyone should be able to do the basics or at least know the basics. If you are in a wheelchair, I do not expect you to change a tire, but you should at least know how because one day you might need to do just that. Just like when people, especially men, are proud they do not know how to cook. This is very much a cultural thing that some Americans and even some Europeans have. It is embarrassing and needs to end. Where I am from, everyone knows how to cook at least breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Nothing fancy, but something. then men usually have dishes they take pride in. Story 146. Not all cars come with a spare tire these days. European cars, especially those with staggered tires, different sizes from front and rear, typically only come with a can of tire sealant and a compressor. Also, as another commenter mentioned, the spare tire operation, if the car is equipped, is only as easy as the last person who bolted the wheels on makes it. Another challenge when changing a spare tire on the side of the road is the effect of corrosion between alloy wheels and the brake discs. I have seen people weighing over 200 pounds need a sledgehammer to break the corrosion, even with the car on a lift and enough room to swing. Story 147. If you grew up in an area where automobiles were the only option, then yes, it is rather unfortunate not to know how to change a tire. If you grew up in a place where automobiles were something you only used very rarely, then I can understand it. Story 148. Be able and prepared to do it yourself, but if someone offers to do it for you, let them. It might be the only time that day they get to feel good about themselves. Story 149. Having seen compilations of fixes online, there is nothing wrong with asking someone who knows what they are doing to help you with something you do not know how to do. It is fine. Story 150. I don't know. If you need help, ask for help. I am sure some people need help with other tasks. I can sew a button back down, but many people wouldn't know how. We all have different skills. It is okay to ask. Demand? No. Ask yes. Story 151. Should you? Absolutely. What happens if you are somewhere out of cell range? There are a lot of small things you should know how to do in an emergency. Use jumper cables, change a battery, change windshield wipers, check and add oil, put air in tires, etc. I don't think being stranded in the woods with that bear you all seem to be comfortable with is going to be much help. Besides, fewer and fewer men know how to do these things. How amazing would you feel changing a tire when your boyfriend can't even figure out how to hold the flashlight steady? Story 152. Should they be allowed to? Sure, why not? If you are asking if they should be able to, that depends on whether Les Schwab installed them with 100 or 600 foot-pounds of torque. I had to use the large impact wrench to remove them from my truck. Story 153. It is not a matter of should. It is simply that if you cannot do something, you can at least appreciate the person who can do it for you. Story 154. It is smart to at least know how. Sometimes you may need extra tools if your strength does not work well with standard equipment. In that case, plan ahead by determining the size of your lug nut and get a corresponding socket. Add a 25 to 46-inch breaker bar with a drive that matches your socket. Sometimes you can find extendable breaker bars that store more compactly. If you need extra mechanical advantage, add a steel pipe with the right diameter to slide over the breaker bar's end and have it cut to the length you need. Story 155. Most places where you get a flat tire are unsafe, such as on the side of a highway or on uneven ground. In today's world, I worry about them being accosted. My wife and daughter both have American Automobile Association Gold for service in case of dire emergencies when they have no other choice. They both carry 2 cans of tire sealant. Story 156. If you have a driver's license, you should be able to do basic tasks like changing a flat tire if necessary. Story 157. Oh man, I care deeply. All day, every day, I care about politics, healthcare, my own safety, and treating people politely. I do not worry about whether a woman can change a tire. If she needs help, I will assist her and also show her the ins and outs. So yes, I have no concern left to give about whether or not she or he can. Story 158. This is why I have roadside assistance. No, I cannot change a tire on my car. It is not that I do not know the mechanics of it, but I am not strong enough to remove the lug nuts. Knowing how and being able to are 2 different things. I can certainly repair an engine on a mower or other small engine, and I can change those tires but not on my car for the life of me. Story 159. Yes, a man should know how to do a basic stitch on clothing if he needs to. It does not mean that you should not ask for help if you are not confident, but it is still good to know enough to manage if you are unable to get help for any reason. Story 160. They should know about basic maintenance. My dad and I will carefully allow my little sister to do nothing but stand or sit and watch us perform basic maintenance on our cars. First, she hated it, but now she has learned the basics. Dad and I take parts out and point to them, mentioning their names, then later ask her what those parts are. She now knows the different parts of the engine, how a tire is changed, how to clean the engine bay, and how to wash cars. She also knows how to troubleshoot a car and what to look for, including the meaning of different dashboard lights. We do not want our little sister or my future wife to tell us they paid for wiper fluid or premium air. That would be a disgrace to our family. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.